All right, hello everybody. This is Jay from Monarch. Welcome to the FY2016 NOFA and project application presentation from Monarch. We hope that it is helpful to everyone and anyone looking to apply for funding through the Continuum of Care competition in 2016. Let's get started. This is our outline. Have some 2016 highlights of the competition, and then specifically this presentation focuses on the eSNAPS application. So eSNAPS is the federal system. It's an online digital system where it allows you to actually apply for the COC funds directly from HUD. If you have any questions on what eSNAPS is or how to utilize it to apply for funding, you can go to HUD Exchange, that's HUD exchange.info, and look up eSNAPS in the search bar. That's ESNAPS, and it has some helpful tutorials on just getting started and understanding what we're dealing with. But hopefully you're ready to go, and we can jump right into how to actually help you complete these project applications this year after a little bit of intro. This is the intro, $1.9 billion in total funding for the Continuum of Care competition from HUD this year. They think it should be sufficient to fund renewals, but they still have the tiering system, so it continues to be competitive. That means there's a Tier 1, which funds equal 93% of the annual renewal demand for the Continuum. What that means is the ARD, or annual renewal demand, is what it would take to refund or continue funding for every single project that the Continuum already has. So what HUD is doing is saying, okay, Tier 1 is going to be 93% of that amount. Tier 2 funding is 7%, the remaining 7% of that renewal demand, plus the amount that a COC would be eligible for the permanent housing bonus, and that's 5% of the final pro rata need. So that's 7% of the ARD plus 5% of the bonus competition equals the Tier 2 amount. Now Tier 2 is the competitive funding. Okay, Tier 1 is considered held harmless. Now, COC can apply for more than one bonus project. The total funding, however, can't exceed that 5% mark. Okay, all projects must be ranked in the Tier 1 or Tier 2 system, except for the COC planning grants. Those are the grants that go to the COC lead to conduct the business of the Continuum administratively. So these are the only exempt projects. Everybody else's projects are going to be ranked, and you should have received some information about where your project is being ranked in from your COC. Tier 1 is considered safe again. It's held harmless. And this section on that in the NOFA, on the eligibility requirements, basically any project that's ranked in Tier 1 will be awarded as long as it meets the threshold requirements. So you can refer to Section 5 under eligibility information in the FY2016 NOFA. Tier 2 is much more competitive and has been in the past couple of competitions. And what it means is that there is a point system for the Tier 2 projects, and the project will or will not be awarded based on the points that it scores according to the description in Section 2B17A of the 2016 NOFA. You can refer to that. There are points ascribed based on the COC score, where the project is ranked in Tier 2, and the type of project it is, how housing first it is in its orientation, etc. Reallocated projects can include permanent supportive housing for the chronically homeless and rapid rehousing for folks coming from emergency shelter or the streets, and supportive service only projects for centralized or coordinated assessment. That's reallocated projects, okay? In terms of the bonus funding, those are only eligible for permanent supportive housing for the chronically homeless or individuals or families, and rapid rehousing projects for homeless coming from emergency shelters or the street. So you should make sure that you know which type of funds your program is coming out of, if it's a renewal, if it is reallocated funds, if it is permanent housing bonus. Your COC should have already given you the information about what is eligible to be funded, so you should already be golden and good to go with your application. Okay. again, in 2016, there's a real need for the COC to ensure that every project application is accurate. So that's why we're doing this webinar. That's why Monarch does its kind of oversight of the submissions before they're finalized. There are actually points associated with the COC ensuring and reviewing the documents that are submitted and making sure that everything works when it's entered into eSNAPs. So the first thing to know once you've gone into the eSNAP system, okay, if you have difficulty logging in or it's your first time using eSNAPs, I would again refer you to hudexchange.info for information on how to set up a account so you can log in. But if you're a returning applicant or if you're new but you've already started your login process, what you're going to need to do is first you have to accept the privacy notification that HUD gives you for using this system, and then you'll come to a screen that looks something like this, okay? And you have in the left-hand gray bar the main navigation tools. As you can see, what we're starting with here is that bar section that's labeled applicants. This is called the applicant profile. Okay, so in order to access the applicant profile, you can click on that orange folder if you're a return or renewal applicant. If you're a new applicant, what you're going to need to do is hit that piece up here that looks like a little piece of paper with the orange plus sign, and that is where you can add your applicant into it so that it's able to submit. If you are someone that represents multiple applicants, you will have to select the proper one from the drop-down menu here. Okay, but if you're a returning applicant or if you're a new applicant that has set up your information, as you can see, they're going to have information that they require of you to be an applicant. You click on this orange folder with the little piece of paper coming out, and that's how you access your applicant profile. So let's go and see what we need to do there. Firstly, if you are a renewal application, it may be tempting to jump headlong into making adjustments and to click save or to, start trying to adjust information. You won't get anywhere as a project applicant until, if you're a renewal, you go down to this section that says Submission Summary. And the reason is that here it's going to be marked as complete. Okay, so if there is an edit button here, that means that it's marked as complete and you can't edit anything yet. In order to edit anything in this applicant profile, what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to click this edit button. Okay, and once I hit that edit button, then any of these sections in the left-hand gray bar are going to be available to me to make adjustments on my applicant profile. So let's get started. Okay, so first page, just talking about the profile type, you are a project applicant, so that should be good to go. You can click Save and Next. Okay, this is where you enter the organization's information. Very important that you have key information like the DUNS number at hand, your organization's type if it's a nonprofit or a government agency, specific tax identification information, and make sure that this is all accurate because this pulls into every application that you submit. Okay, but it's basic information. So once you've completed it, as you can see, you have a bevy of options of buttons down below. It's really important when you're doing anything in eSNAPs that you want to keep that you either choose this Save, Save and Back, or Save and Next options. Because if you just click Back or Next, any information you've adjusted won't update. Okay, so make sure of that. So I'm going to click Save and Next. I've entered my organization information. This is going to be information of the primary contact, or no, excuse me, the authorized representative. So this is whoever in your agency is authorized to make decisions on behalf of the agency, like to apply for federal funding. So this may not be you, it may be your boss or director, what have you. So make sure you enter that information accurately of their contact information. If HUD is trying to get in touch with you regarding your application being awarded, they are going to make an effort to reach out, and that you want to make sure that contact information is accurate. Once you've done that, you can click Save and Next. This is the alternate contact information, so make sure that there's a second person that's in line to receive communications from HUD about your application, and you can enter this and click Save and Next. There's additional information required. Oh, excuse me, I went backwards. And what you're going to need to do here in the drop-down, or it's not a drop-down menu, it's actually a select menu, you should make sure that you select the congressional district that is applicable for you as an agency. Okay, so where do you as an agency operate? If you click in here and then hit NJ on your keyboard, it'll sort down to the New Jersey congressional districts. So once you click on the district number that is accurate for you, you need to hit this little sideways arrow to push it over to the selected side. And then you need to, select if you're a faith-based organization, if you've ever received a federal grant, and if your code of conduct is already on file with HUD. Regardless, just so you remember, even if you think your code of conduct is on file with HUD, you must do this in your applicant profile anyway, okay? HUD always asks for the code of conduct, regardless of whether we think it's on file with them. So that's something to save in your mind for later when we get to this section of the applicant profile. Okay, so once I've selected my congressional district and filled out these questions, I'm going to click Save and Next to make sure I keep that information saved. And then here there's a disclosure report, okay? These forms are very, very important. They are required for each project that you are submitting an application for to HUD. It's called a HUD Form 2880, okay? So the next piece that we're going to do is go through that 2880 form to make sure we all know how to update that with accurate information. Okay, so as you can see, this would be this is where you would actually upload it. If you clicked on these words here, applicant recipient disclosure form, that's where you would upload this form. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to escape here from our presentation. Please excuse my desktop, and go over to the 2880 form so we can discuss it together. Okay, so what you can see here is the 2880 form up close and personal. If you have any trouble locating these forms, it's really easy to just Google HUD applicant recipient disclosure update or HUD form 2880, as you can see here. And the same thing goes for the other forms. They're pretty easy to identify and find online. Okay, what you're going to need to do is click that this is an update, you're not going to want to do that. You want an initial report, since this is the first time we're submitting this report for this renewal or new project application. Then type in the name and address of your agency and make sure that it's accurate. And then you're going to put your phone number here. You can put your social security number or your tax ID number, of your agency here. HUD program name should be Continuum of Care on every form for everybody. This is the amount that you're requesting in funding. This is the name of your program, and what you're going to need to also do in this line is put the address of your project. So I just put the town and state, but try to squeeze in the full project the full project address that you're going to be operating with. If it's a scattered site project, you can just put in your headquarters, wherever your information is going to be. You can also put scattered sites. Okay, so this is going to be an important field for determining how I continue in my application. Okay, so let's say I was requesting $250,000 worth of assistance. Okay, this question, part 1, this is asking if you're applying for assistance for a specific project or activity. Okay, obviously you are applying for a specific activity, hopefully ending homelessness in some way for the continuum of care. Okay, what this second question asks in the 2880 is, are you expecting to receive $200,000 or more? So don't ignore this, don't skip past it, make sure you check against the budget that you're requesting. If I'm requesting $250,000 or more, then I have to answer yes. And then I read the instructions here that says if you've answered no to either question 1 or 2, stop. You don't need to complete parts 2 or 3. Okay, since I did, I would have to make sure that I go through here. This is asking in part 2 whether I have also received other forms of assistance or assistance from the federal government in order to do this project for these purposes, okay, and what I expect to use the funds for, okay. It may be none. So then you would just be able to write none in there if you're just requesting COC funds, okay? If you have a sponsor agency or if you have a subrecipient that maybe you are paying rent to who is then reimbursing landlords for rents on behalf of clients, if you are paying anyone who is getting a check from grant funds for the COC, maybe it's a support service agency and you have supportive service dollars in your grant, you're going to need to name that agency, put in their number or tax ID information, maybe they're the sponsor agency, and then you're going to have to put in the dollar amount that they are actually going to be receiving from your project, okay? Now this is all hinging on whether or not you have answered yes to both questions, okay? If you answer no, let's say your grant amount is only $25,000. In this case, you answer no to question 2, and you don't have to tangle with parts 2 and 3. Okay, you don't need to say, yes, I have other interested parties who may have a financial stake in this project, okay? Make sure that you put a date and have a signature from the person who is your authorized signatory, and make sure you attach this second sheet, and you're ready to go. What is really important to remember is that this 2880 form is just for one project, okay? This is just my 2880 for the Ending Homelessness Project. If I am a grantee or an applicant that is applying for the Ending Homelessness Project and Ending Homelessness 2 or any other type of project, if I have multiple applications that I'm going to be sending to HUD, I need to do more 2880s. I need to do one 2880 form for every single application that I'm going to be sending to HUD. Okay, so just one form doesn't cut it if I have multiple applications. If I just have the one, then I'm all set. I've done everything that I need to do, and I can continue on with the other forms. I'm just going to go back to my PowerPoint here. Okay, so that was our 2880 form. The next form that we have to do, so once I've completed it anyway, if I have multiple forms, as you can see, there's only one line to upload this form in our applicant profile, the disclosure or 2880 form. So what I'm going to have to do is either combine the multiple PDF files of my multiple forms and then upload them together, or scan them together into one PDF. However you want to do it, you only have one place to upload it. So if you have multiple forms, you'll have to combine them. And then you just click on this line under document type, and that will allow you to upload and choose the file that you have ready to upload. Okay, so that's your 2880 form. If I click next, okay, you can see that this is, oh, excuse me. So when you click on this line here, this is what's going to pop up for you to upload. Okay, it's going to say you describe it, you can say it's a disclosure form, it'll have you name the file, and then you can choose the file. It'll have something that says here, oh, it says choose file, and you can choose your file or browse and find what you need to upload. Okay? All right, so what we see here is we've done the 2880. The next form that I'm going to go over is the SFLLL. As you can see, we have the SFLLL, Code of Conduct, HUD Form 50070. That is the statement that you have a drug-free workplace. If you're a nonprofit, you need to upload nonprofit documentation, and then you would also need to have to complete the survey on EEO, Equal Opportunity. That's only for nonprofits. Okay, so next on our list, after our HUD Form 2880 and the left-hand gray bar, we're going on to SFLLL. Okay, so that's this next form here. Okay. The SFLLL form, this is a standard across the board submission that we're going to do at the top here in these fields. Basically, you're disclosing any lobbying activities, and again, if you need to search for it, it's SF or Standard Form LLL. Disclosure of lobbying activities. So once we get to the first section here, everybody is going to be filling this out as B because it's a grant that we are applying for. Okay, this is an application, so it's A, and then this is the initial filing. Okay, A, because this is the first time we're applying for this particular renewal or new application. You are the applicant. Okay, so you're going to need to click Prime. And then here, you're going to need to name your agency and enter your full address, okay? So you may need to go over to your Adobe tools and enter in some text and put it here. So just make sure that you're keeping in mind what you need to do. Maybe you have to fill it out and then scan it separately. So just make sure that you don't forget to fill out this box. There's not a form that's easy to figure out. So make sure that you don't forget to put that in there, okay? Then your congressional district, if known, otherwise it's not required, so it's not essential that you complete this field. Over here, reporting entity, if you are not the prime, okay? However, you're not going to need this because you are the prime. Number 6, U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development is the group that you are trying to get dollars from for this COC project, so make sure you put their name in there. Now, we have the Continuum of Care program again, okay, that's the federal program name, and then very important, 14.267 is the CFDA number, okay, you're going to need that on your OE or EEO form if you're a nonprofit as well. So make sure you remember 14.267. Okay, you don't need the federal action number. You don't need the award amount because we don't know how much we're going to get yet. Okay, if your agency has a registered lobbyist, you're going to need to put the information of that individual in this section. Okay, I have not seen any of these forms come back with someone actually listed here. You know, you probably don't have any lobbyists that are registered with your organization, but if you do, you can inquire and put the information here. If not, then you can just skip down and you can go to putting the name of your authorized official, their title, their telephone number, and the date when they're signing off that you have disclosed all your lobbying activities, and you can save this and upload it under the SFLLL form. Okay, so that's your second form in eSNAPS. Here is the third form, right? Skipping down, so you will also have to upload your code of conduct. But the next HUD form that's on the docket is this one. It's called 50070, also easy to look up, okay? But you can also search by certification for a drug-free workplace. Basically, you're just putting in your applicant name. If I were an applicant, which I am not, I'm going to put in my agency name, and then the program or activity receiving federal funding. This is going to be my project name. Okay, so again, I'm putting the name of my project there. And then basically what this form is certifying is that I'm not you know, utilizing any illicit materials or drugs at these locations. So basically, if you're a scattered site project, you can put the headquarters of your agency or your offices, and if you have multiple sites, you will need to put multiple sites. As you can see here, it says that if there's multiple sites, you need to make sure that you can attach separate pages to encompass all of the information. So you need to do is create a separate list and attach it as one document with this form 50070. Okay, so you can enter your address and information here, or what you can do is if you have multiple locations, you can put C attached in this space and then go and put your attachment with it. Okay, again, name of authorized official, their title, and the date that they're certifying that you have a drug-free workplace, and you're all good to go on your 50070. It's the same upload process as the SFLL and 2880. You just have to click and make sure that it is going to upload the right file for you. Okay, so back into our presentation, we've done the 2880, we've done our SFLL or lobbying activities. Make sure that you do the same thing. A code of conduct is going to be a similar screen that pops up here. So you describe it as a code of conduct, you choose the file that you want to upload, then you do your 50070. If you are an agency that is a local government agency, you will not have these fields that say nonprofit document and survey on EEO. This is just for you nonprofits out there. Okay, so nonprofits, make sure that you click on nonprofit document and upload your 501c3 status certification. Okay, that's going to be really important because HUD is only going to award you if they think you are an eligible applicant. Okay, make sure that that is present. And then survey on EEO. This is a pretty simple form. So here you have our survey on EEO, or ensuring equal opportunity for applicants. Here you can put your agency name, your DUNS. The federal program, again, is going to be Continuum of Care. CDFA number, that's that 14.267 that we had on the other form, on the lobbying disclosure form. And then you answer some basic information about your program and your agency, rather. And you can make sure that you have this secondary page. That's all it is. You're just making sure that you have the information about your agency, and that is all you have to do for the survey on EEO. If you are a nonprofit, save it, and you can upload it to eSnaps, and you should be good to go. Okay, so what we've done here is we've gone through all of these attachments that are super essential for you as an applicant. HUD does look at all of these. Okay, so make sure the information is accurate before uploading. Okay, you can tell if you've actually updated your forms, if you're a renewal, by the date that it shows in the last updated column. Right now we're on the submission summary section of the applicant profile. So you can see, hey, I have something that's missing. I need the authorized representative's information completed. Or if everything is complete, then you will be able to click this complete button. You can see that it's inactive because I have something that still needs to be completed. But once it's done and complete, I can click this button and it will complete my applicant profile. I won't be able to edit it anymore. And all of that applicant profile information is really important because it all pulls into your Exhibit 2, as we'll see very shortly. And that just walked you through it, right? See, now there's nothing left to do. So now I have a complete button. And now, after I click the complete button, it shows an edit button because I would need to click the edit button in order to change anything. Okay, so where we just were in our eSnaps profile was we were under the applicants section. Once you log in, this is the basic look that you would have, right? In the left-hand gray bar, you'd have applicants, funding opportunity, project, and submission. So we went into the applicants section for the applicant profile. Now we are going to create your project application. Okay, this application that you've been awarded by your Continuum that you're going to apply to HUD for, it's not just out there in eSnaps for the taking. You have to create it. Okay, and so basically what we're going to start with is we're going to register for the funding opportunity. There's a funding opportunity to apply for these new types of projects or a renewal project in 2016, and we are going to make sure that we register our agency to do that. In order to register, let's say for a renewal project, all I would have to do is click on this piece of paper with the red check mark next to it, okay? And what it's going to say in the next screen, and I don't know if I have a screenshot of it, is yes. Okay, it's going to ask you if you want to really register, and then you're going to hit yes, and then this is the screen that's going to pop up. You can see it says the funding opportunity name, Renewal Project 2016, and it will say the name of your agency from the applicant profile has been registered. Then you can click back, okay? And if you wanted to go back and you have both a new project and a renewal project, you'll have to click the paper next to both new and renewal. If you just have renewal, then make sure you just click that, okay? Now, once you've registered for the funding opportunity, that doesn't mean you have an application ready to go, okay? All that means is you've registered your agency. Basically, you have to go down this line in the gray bar. You have to start at funding opportunity registration, then go to the projects list, and then it'll become a submission that's ready for you. So what we have to do in the projects list is, as you can see, we were in funding opportunity registration. We registered ourselves. Then we can click in the left-hand gray bar on projects, okay? It's an open project now that will be available to us. And what we can do is click on this drop-down menu, and this will show all the opportunities that we're registered for, and it will show one of the options is renewal project application or new project application, FY 2016. That's what we want to select. What you will find is that initially this list here will have nothing in it because you haven't actually created the projects for your 2016 application. In order to do that, what you need to do is click on this little icon here, the piece of paper with the orange plus sign. Okay, that's going to add a project application for you. So if you are ready to go, you're creating your application, click on that. This is what will pop up. This is going to be your applicant name, blacked out to protect the lives of the innocent. And what you need to do is enter your applicant project name. Okay, so what's the name of the project I'm applying for? You put that in this field here. If you're a renewal, make sure that you're matching your old project name based on the grant inventory worksheet. And what you can do, if you are a renewal project who had a project renewed last year in the FY 2015 competition, you can also import data. So what that means is you can use this drop-down menu and select the project. It'll also have the project number in the drop-down menu that you want to import data from. So I have the same application that I put in last year. This year, I'm going to import data from last year's submission. It's going to save me a lot of time. Okay, it's going to have a lot of the information pre-populated in my submission. So if you want to create another project, you can create, save, and add another after you've entered the name and selected to import data. Or if you just have your one application or you're ready to go and work on your submissions, you can just click Save and Back, and that'll bring you back to the projects list. Okay? Once you're done in the projects list, creating your projects, again, we're going to go down the ladder to submissions. Okay? If you click on submissions in the left-hand gray bar, this is what's going to pop up is your submissions list. Okay? Once you're in your submissions list, you will be able to find your renewal project application. Okay, this is the one that's for 2015. You're going to search in your project list for your FY 2016 project application. Once you find that application in your list, and remember, if you have multiple applications in here from past years, you could have multiple pages of your submissions list. So down at the bottom, there would be a red or orange number 1, 2 through whatever, and make sure you can search through there. Or you can use a filter that's you know, going from, hey, I don't want to just look at all the projects I have. I want to look for this specific titled project. And you can use the drop down here to filter and find it more quickly if that's an issue finding it. Okay? But once I'm in my submissions list, if I want to work on my project application, this is the icon that I really need to use. It's that orange folder again with the piece of paper coming out of it like we saw in the applicant profile. Okay, so if I'm ready to go and work on my submission, I click on the orange folder. This is the first page that will pop up. Okay, as you can see, we have some information in general about our competition. There's also a link here to the 2016 renewal project instructions. So make sure that if you are an applicant who has put in your application before, you still review your applicant instructions, okay? This is a tool, this webinar, for you to help you with your submission. We also want to direct you to those resources because HUD has a really vested interest in having you do as well as you can on its application, right? They want to smooth over any issues before they even arise. So this is just your basic before starting stuff to keep in mind. Make sure you're taking a look at it. It also talks about the NOFA. You know, everybody should be familiar with what's in the NOFA as much as possible. Okay? Once you're ready to go and you've absorbed all the HUD knowledge and wisdom, you can go to next. This page is pulling information in from your last application. If you're a renewal and you've imported data, there's going to be a grant number here. It is not going to be your most recent grant number. Okay, if you're a new project application, there's going to be nothing in here. You're going to have to, I think there won't actually even be an award identifier, right, if you're a new application. If you are a renewal application, but it's your first time renewal, and you have been awarded not in the 2015 application round, but in a previous round, so you had a multi-year grant awarded prior to 2015's competition, your award identifier will be an old grant number, so it will still be your original grant number, but regardless, you have to make sure it matches what's on your grant inventory worksheet from the COC. If you have any question on what your grant number is, if you're a renewal that had an application in last year, your grant number will end in 15-0 something, okay? So it'll be, your most recent renewing grant. This is the grant that we're renewing. Make sure it matches the GIW. You're going to have to certify that you've updated this. And so once you've done that and you put in your accurate grant number, you can click Save and Next. This is the legal applicant information. This should not be something that you can fill in information from because it's pulling in from your applicant profile. Okay, just check and make sure it's right. If it is wrong or anything's amiss, you're not going to be able to change it here. You'll have to go back to your applicant profile to change it. Okay. This is, again, just program information, so you don't need to change anything. A general rule to keep in mind in your Exhibit 2, this is a grayed out field. Anything that's grayed out does not need your input, okay? Sometimes fields change based on the information you enter in, but if you see any fields that you're confused as to why you can't write in them, don't worry about it. They are not meant for you to submit data in. Okay? And click Next. This is the 1D Congressional Districts section of your Exhibit 2. Basically, what you're going to have here is just selecting your state, selecting the congressional district of your applicant, your agency. So what congressional districts do you operate in? And then this particular project. What districts does it operate in? Maybe you cover multiple communities, and so you would have more numbers here than you do here because this is just happening in one specific community. Okay? Proposed start date. If you're a new applicant, you're going to be able to propose when you think your project is going to start. This is a renewal application, and this has been pre-populated from the past competition. So this is going to have to be changed. If you're a renewal applicant, make sure that you change your proposed start and end date because this FY2016 competition, your start date is going to have to be in 2017 and your end date is going to be in 2018 unless you start right at the beginning of 2018. So then you would have a start date that's 1/1 and an expiration date that's 12/31. But make sure that every project that you submit an application for has a start date that ends in 2017 or 2018, like I said, with that one exception, and end date has to be in 2018. Okay, so make sure you're updating that if you're a renewal applicant. Then you can click Save and Next. 1E compliance. This is asking about whether your program is subject to a state review on the basis of a very specific regulation. If you don't know what this is asking, or you know that you're not being reviewed by the state, then your answer is B. There's a drop-down menu with some other options. Hopefully you're not under review for anything, and you would have to choose another option, but most everybody is going to be selecting B, that your program is subject to this regulation but has not been selected. Hopefully nobody is delinquent on a federal debt. If you are, please make sure that you do contact your COC, because that's something that they'll need to continue to consider with regard to who's applying for these funds. But most of us, it's going to be no, we're not delinquent on a federal debt. Those are the required fields, and you can click Save and Next. Okay, this is a declaration. Basically, this is the authorized representative who you entered information for in the applicant profile, so you don't need to fill any of this stuff in, agreeing that the statements that you're making in this application are true and complete, and you're not committing fraud by making some erroneous statement. Once you've completed that, you can click Save and Next. Okay, and I just want to jump back quickly. Don't get flustered. Okay, you can see here that I'm starting in the project application, and there's all of these different fields in here. When you first go into the application, only 1 through 1F is going to be present, okay, most likely. And so what you have to do is you have to get through these initial steps, and then after you check off that declaration, then part 2 through the rest of the application is going to pop up. So don't get frustrated if you're logging in and you say, where's all these fields? After you complete that declaration over here, you're going to be fine. So as soon as you click Agree and Save and Next, the rest of the application will pop up. Next is Section 2A for project subrecipients. Okay, if you're an agency that is having another agency receive funds from the grant you're applying for, so they're actually receiving payments out of HUD funds for support services or for rental assistance payments that they're making or leasing payments that they're making, make sure that you add in that subrecipient. If this doesn't have anything pre-populated, if you're a new project or you're a renewal, and you don't have anything listed in this row, you can click on this piece of paper with the orange plus sign, and that will add in a subrecipient. If you alone as the grantee are receiving the dollars, you're providing the services, or you're making the payments for rental assistance to landlords, you do not need to have a subrecipient. Okay, this is not required to have one, but if you do have one, you're going to need to create it with this piece of paper or update it. Okay, so if you're a renewal who's updating information like the subaward amount, etc., for your subrecipient, you're going to need to click on this gray magnifying glass with the plus sign. Okay, so you can click there, and this is what's going to show up if you have a subrecipient in Section 2A. Okay, you need to make sure you have the organizational information, make sure you have the congressional district, the contact person, the expected sub-award amount, so that's the amount that you're going to be sending to that subrecipient from the HUD funds, and then you're going to be able to save and go back to the list at the bottom here. Okay? Make sure if you have done something in 2A for your subrecipient, I've jumped down all the way to 8A for attachments. Make sure that you attach nonprofit documentation for your subrecipients. Okay, you have to make sure you attach that in your attachments section if you are going to put a subrecipient in. Otherwise, it's an eligibility requirement problem for HUD, right? Because they are not going to give their funds to an ineligible subrecipient. Okay. After Section 2A, Section 2B, recipient performance. Okay, have you submitted APRs on time, had any HUD monitorings? If you're a new project application, you won't have this section because you haven't done any of this stuff. If you have done your quarterly drawdowns, if you have any recaptured funds. If you answer that you have a late APR, you have HUD monitoring findings, you haven't done drawdowns, or you have had recaptured funds, and you select yes, I have recaptured funds, for instance, or you have one of those answers for those other questions, there's going to be a dialog box or a entry box that you have to explain your answer. So why did you have recaptured funds in the last year? Okay, make sure you complete that. It's required of all you know, answers that you make that are contrary to what HUD expects you to answer. So make sure you fill that out accurately and completely. Click Save and Next. Section 3A, Project Detail. This is going to be pulled in from another section for the expiring grant number. Make sure that you select your COC applicant, your collaborative applicant. Okay, so that's your COC lead agency. You're going to be able to select them from the drop-down menu. So make sure that you know how to find them and click that selection before you continue on, because it's a required field as it shows here. Okay, project status is going to be a drop-down menu. Component type, if it's transitional housing, it'll be TH. If it's permanent housing, it'll be PH. If it's centralized intake, it'll be SSO, etc. And then this is the Title V process question. Basically, if you have any properties that have been a realigned military location, you can select yes. Most of us are going to select no. Then you can click Save and Next. Okay, this is the next section. Let's see what I think it's 3B. Okay, this is, yes, it's 3B. You're going to be addressing the explanation of what your proposed project is. Then you're going to need to select whether or not you participate in your coordinated entry process in your COC. That's a requirement now, but if you do not, or your COC doesn't have one that they're asking you to say you participate in, make sure that you select no and explain why you don't participate in the COC coordinated entry process. Most of us are going to be answering yes or no with an explanation. Okay, does your project have a specific population focus? Okay, you're not required to, but many projects do, and so you can select yes. You're not required to serve these populations exclusively, right? If I have a specific population focus for chronic homelessness, it doesn't mean that I have to select or only serve chronic homeless persons. I could just be equipped as a program to serve that specialized population, okay? Then in the Housing First section, this is very important information for our COCs because HUD is looking at them and scoring our COCs based on these in your project applications. Does the project quickly move participants into permanent housing? It's a drop-down yes or no. And then are you creating low barrier programs or lowering barriers like income or substance abuse, criminal record, or domestic violence? Make sure that you check off all of the criteria that you are you know, having low barriers with. Okay, so yes, my program does not screen out based on someone that has too little income or active substance abuse, etc. Okay, or just, you know, if you're selecting all of them, then that's very low barrier. There may be some that you do have barriers with in your program. You just can't accept folks because of your program model. Make sure that you're honest about this. But know that it does have an impact on how your COC is going to score in terms of the barriers. And this is for admission criteria, and this is for termination criteria from the program. Okay, this Housing First approach piece is going to automatically populate. Does PH provide PSH or rapid rehousing? So if you said earlier that you're providing PH, then it's going to ask you, is it PSH, supportive housing, or is it rapid rehousing? Make sure you answer that in the drop down. If you have any questions about what your program model is, you can make sure you straighten that out. And then it's asking if you're asking for rental assistance. If you're a leasing project, you can select no. Otherwise, you can select yes. And then, is the COC program a leasing program that had been changed from leasing to rental assistance? Make sure you answer that accurately as well. Some projects did make that change in their history. Okay, once you've completed this, you can go to Save and Next. This is 4A, asking about the supportive services that are being provided. If you are a program that serves any families, you must select yes to both of these questions, or you're going to have an issue with HUD in your issues and conditions. Basically, HUD requires that you are ensuring that families with children are knowing their rights and are having someone on your staff ensuring that their children are sorry, went to the wrong page, are getting their educational services as needed. Okay, so then you can go down here and select the types of support services that are going to be available to the consumers in your project and what provider is going to be offering them, whether it's a partner, the subrecipient, and how frequently those services will be available to clients or consumers. Okay, then is transportation included? In order that someone can get to their job or mainstream benefit appointment. Single application form for more mainstream benefits, you can enter that information, and that's kind of a collaboration between you and your social services division. You can ask them about that, whether or not they do use a single form for 4 or more mainstream programs. And then follow up with participants to ensure they have their benefits. And then it asks, does the project give access to technical assistance for these applications? If you select yes, there's going to be a follow-up question asking about SOAR training for your staff. So it's going to be asking whether or not the staff that is providing technical assistance is SOAR certified or trained, and it's going to ask whether that took place in the last 24 months. So make sure you have the information at hand to answer those questions if applicable. You can click Save and Next. Next is 4B, housing type and location. If you're a renewal, you'll probably have some information here already, and you can update it with the magnifying glass. If you are a new project or a renewal that didn't import any information, you're going to have to click this piece of paper with the orange plus sign to adjust the information. And it's going to ask you these questions about what type of housing it is, the number of units and beds, and the total number that are dedicated to the chronically homeless. Okay? If you have a lower number here than up here, then you're going to need to make sure that you enter in how many of those beds that aren't dedicated are going to be available in the next year. This would be the 2016 operating year. And then how many beds will be prioritized for the chronically homeless even though they're not dedicated. Okay, then you can put the project address if it's project-based. If you select scattered sites up here, you won't have to put in an address. And then again, the geographic areas associated with the address, you can do that same system where you select the geographic areas that are applicable and hit the arrow so they show over here. And then you can click Save and back to list. Or if you have to add another unit blend of different type of housing, then you can do that by clicking Save and add another. Okay, when you click Save and back to list, you'll go back, then you can click Next into Section 5A. This is about your population that you're going to be serving, okay? Households with 1 adult and 1 child are families, households without children, or households with only children if you're serving a youth population that is under 18, okay? Adult households without children, you're going to be putting in not only the number of households, but also the breakdown of the ages over 24 or 18 to 24. And then if you're talking about families, total number of households, and then total adults over 24 between 18 and 24, and the number of children that are targeted. If you're a renewal project that imported data, most of this is going to be pre-populated. If you're a new project, make sure you don't overcommit yourself. Make sure you're entering approximately the number of persons that you are actually requesting in terms of beds, right, for the unit mix that you're requesting. Okay. Once you're done with that, you can click Save and Next. This is Section 5B. This is a much more detailed breakdown of your target population. So this is the households that are families, the individuals, and then the children households if you serve that population. Okay, you'll see that it's broken down by age group, adults, and then adults 18 to 24, and then minors. And what it's asking for you is to tell the number of in each population that is, or in each age range that fits these subpopulation categories. Okay, could be chronically homeless, could be folks with specific types of disabling conditions, or it could be this category all the way to the right, persons not represented by listed subpopulation. Now remember, if you're a renewal and you have some information that's pulling in here, or you're a renewal and you're referring back to your original grant application, you must serve the same group that you committed to serving when you applied to HUD originally all those years ago. Okay. If you're a new project, you can make sure that you accurately reflect the population you're targeting in this section for families, this section for individuals, etc. But if you're a rapid rehousing program, or if you're a program that's a new COC-funded permanent housing program, etc., and you serve a population that is not represented by the listed subpopulations, make sure that the number of folks that you put here and here, your totals over here in each subcategory, adds up to the same numbers as you had in Section 5A, this one back here. Okay, so make sure that 5A matches 5B. If you list only persons not represented by listed subpopulations in your Section 5B, there will be a box down at the bottom for you to explain why there's nobody listed in any of these subcategories. Basically just explain that that's who your population is. You're not targeting specific subpopulations, but you are targeting eligible homeless people. Okay, you can click Save and Next after 5B is done. 5C is about where you're receiving referrals or folks who are participants. Predominantly, you're going to be talking about street or emergency shelter referrals, and so make sure it adds up to 100%. Save and Next. 6A, your funding request. This is asking you if you have a restrictive covenant on the property, if you have a project-based or other acquisition or rehab project, and then again here we have whether you were awarded under one of the Samaritan or permanent housing bonus competitions. And for new projects, you're not going to be dealing with these types of things for these here, but everybody needs to answer whether they are requesting funds that have been reduced, or sorry, that's still going to be for renewals. Okay, so if your project was reduced by the COC funding decision, you're going to need to answer yes here, otherwise you can answer no. And then this is asking about proposing to allocate funds according to an indirect cost rate. That's probably going to be no, but you can look at the instructions for that explanation. Then it's going to ask which budget line items you're requesting funding for. Okay, this project is just requesting rental assistance, but some projects are going to have leasing or support services, operations, or HMIS. So make sure you check all of the boxes that apply here, because if you don't check the boxes here, you're not going to be able to put in the budget that you need. This determines what sections of the application open up to you. You can click Save and Next once you're done here. And if you're requesting rental assistance, this is going to be the next section that you see. If you're requesting leasing, you'll also see that budget section next. Basically, if you have nothing pre-populated here, then you're going to need to hit the paper with the plus sign again. If you are a renewal and you have information in here and you need to adjust it, make sure, and I would suggest that you check it everyone anyway, make sure you click on this spyglass or magnifying glass. And this is what's going to happen when you either create or update your rental assistance budget. So once you click on the magnifying glass or create a new rental assistance budget section with your plus sign and paper, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see a rental assistance budget detail or a leasing budget detail. You're going to choose the type of rental assistance, if applicable, and then the region of the fair market rent. And then here's a question about whether you're requesting less than the FMR for a rental assistance budget. If you are requesting less, you'll have to select yes. Otherwise, you can select no. Choose the unit mix that you have and make sure that this number down here, your total request for either leasing or rental assistance, matches what your COC has awarded you. If there's been a reallocation or a reduction, it might not match exactly what's on the GIW, but if you haven't been reduced, then it will exactly match the GIW. Just make sure you know the number you're working for and make sure that it's accurate. If you hit yes, that you are getting less than fair market rent, then it's going to be optional for you to write in the numbers in this HUD paid rent section. Okay. Once you're done, you can either save and add another if you have another grouping of rental assistance or leasing payments that's at a different rate, or you can click Save and Back to List. Okay? If you have supportive services in your budget, this is what your budget is going to look like. Make sure that you read the directions about what you need to enter in here, okay, about quantity and description. They're asking for a detailed description of what percentage of a full-time employee or what type of service is being provided in each of these eligible categories under the support services line item. If you don't get supportive services, you will not see this screen. Okay, and then there's figures over here as to what the numbers add up to for your total supportive services budget. If you are applying as a renewal or as a new application and your COC did not authorize you to select supportive services, make sure you don't pay attention to this section because you won't have it here. You won't be selecting that you're getting support services. Okay, Section 6H, sources of match. Basically what you're going to do here is put in what you've committed to as your 25% match requirement for the Continuum project. As you can see, until you do, it's going to tell you what the total match requirement is. So that's your minimum 25% based on the budget you've entered. So this number, your total in-kind and or total all commitments, must equal at least this. So you can see this particular project hasn't met it yet. So if you have something in here already that you need to get rid of, you can click on this red X to get rid of it, or if you want to just update it, you can click the magnifying glass for renewals, new projects, or non-imported. We'll have to click the yellow plus sign or orange plus sign with the paper, and you're going to be entering in the information about whether it's an in-kind or private and private contribution, what the source is, and the date of commitment is very important, okay? This is going to be one of the fields once you go in to update it. That date of commitment must be between May 1, 2016 and September 14, 2016. Shouldn't be too difficult to get a letter dated in the current time frame, but just so you keep that in mind. Okay. And you can click Save and Next once you've met your match requirement, sources of match. 6I is your summary budget. Okay. It's really essential that you line up this budget with what you have been authorized to request from the Continuum. Okay, this number down here, 167,083 for this project, is exactly the total assistance plus admin. So this is your total HUD request. This is the section of the application where you get to request admin. Okay, I know it says up to 10% here, but you know most of your applications are going to be less than 10%. Make sure you're only applying for what the COC has authorized you, or if the COC has authorized the full amount on the GIW, that this amount is all adding up in the right proportions to the total budget you're authorized to apply for. Then it's going to have your match requirement and the total of your request plus the match. Make sure that you meet your match because it's going to remind you here you won't be able to complete your application without it. Okay? Then you can click Save and Next. And you can go to the attachment section. Remember, if you have any subrecipients, you're going to need to attach that match document, or I mean the nonprofit documentation. And what you do to upload something is you click on this under document type, and it'll take you to that same upload screen as we saw before in the applicant profile. If you need to remove one of these to make way for a new one, click the red X, and it'll show you the date that you attached things, so you can make sure that you're up to date. For other attachment, we recommend that you attach your match documentation. Okay, so what that is if you have a match requirement of 25% for your project, right, and that's 25% of all your budget line items minus leasing costs is 25% match, then what you're going to need to do is upload the letter that you've received from maybe a sponsor agency or a partner or from your own agency providing documentation that you are going to meet your match requirement. That's the place that you could upload that here. Okay. Once you're done here, you can click Next. This is another certification, again stating that your authorized representative agrees that they have not committed fraud or you haven't committed fraud in applying for these funds because you have not misrepresented anything. Once you click that box right here, you can click Save and Next, and you are at your submission summary page. Okay, so this is the end of your Exhibit 2. It's not submitted yet, though. Okay, as you can see on this screen, we have a Submit button, but the Submit button is grayed out. Okay, the reason that it's grayed out is because there are still fields that I have not completed fully. Okay, I haven't met my match requirement, and I haven't clicked my certification. Once all of these are complete, and all the mandatory yeses have been completed, then this button will be like these buttons and be clickable, okay? Then you can click submit. Don't click submit until Monarch has given you the go-ahead, okay? Basically what you're going to want to do is, if you've done your first draft of your project application Exhibit 2, then what you can do is utilize this button, the Export to PDF button. That's going to be the easiest and quickest way for you to get your Exhibit 2 to us and for us to review it. So once you are done with your initial draft of the Exhibit 2 project application, click on Export to PDF and then send the file to Monarch for review. Do not hit Submit before Monarch has reviewed your submission, so that we can make sure that if there's anything you need to update, you can do that before hitting Submit. Okay, thank you. Now next, we're on to the federal and local timelines. As you know, the Exhibit 1 and 2, or project application and collaborative application, are due by September 14th. Similar to last year, Monarch is reviewing each project application before you submit, as I just said. Please reach out to your local COC leads for local deadlines. This webinar is open to a lot of folks from different COCs. You all have different local deadlines on when you need to get that application not submitted but exported to PDF for Monarch to review. So make sure you know when that's due so that we can take time to look at it and get you feedback well in advance of the application deadline. Okay? Monarch's role. What do we do? What are we looking at in your project applications? What are the hot spots that we try to make sure is totally accurate? Okay, we do an overall review of each project application, but depending on how much time we have, you know, because this is application season, we may not go through each section if you're a renewal application. What we specifically identify are the budget, including admin, making sure that's accurate, match and leveraging, making sure that you've met the match requirement, project component, making sure you're requesting the correct type of project according to what the COC is expecting you to apply for, and then prioritization of chronically homeless. Okay, we also review in part your applicant profile, especially for new applicants. We'll take a look, but make sure that you have your applicant profile all set up and completed prior to working on your application, because you won't be able to complete it without having a complete applicant profile. And make sure that all those forms are updated in your applicant profile. Okay? Contact information, where to send your project application once you've exported to PDF. Make sure you send it to the appropriate representative at Monarch. Okay, so for the Southern New Jersey, Tri-County, Mercer, and Middlesex continuums, you can send it to Jay, that's me, and you can send Caitlin any applications from Bergen, Hudson, Passaic, or Somerset counties, and to Thaisa, Atlantic, Ocean, Monmouth, and Morris County applications. If you have any questions, you have our emails here on the screen. Please contact us. But if you have technical assistance questions, please first contact either the HUD Exchange for your training materials. Click in eSnaps on those detailed instructions that I pointed out earlier, or try to work with this webinar. If you still have a project application question you can't solve, you can reach out to us or your COC lead. Okay? We are Monarch. We're trying to be helpful here this year, as we are in every year for your competition. I hope this webinar has been helpful. I didn't have any of the help of my colleagues this year, as I'm used to, so I hope I did an acceptable job, but we are all here for you to try to make sure that this goes as smoothly as possible, and you can probably find this and other materials at monarchhousing.org. Thank you so much for taking the time and for being a part of the Continuum of Care process, trying to end homelessness in your community. I know it's arduous with these project applications, but I hope everyone has great success this year. Thank you.